We have a very small group today, but I'm very pleased to invite back Dr. Rachel Pearson as our presenter. Dr. Pearson is a clinical marriage and family therapist, as well as a certified sex therapist in the Wichita community. She received her master's degree from Friends University in marriage and family therapy, and her doctorate from Wichita State University in community psychology and research. She has additional specialized training in difficulties with sexual desire and functioning, compulsive sexual behavior and unhealthy sexual boundaries, and marital and relationship issues. She conducts educational sessions and events in the Wichita area for sexual enhancement for couples as well as for individuals. Welcome back, Dr. Pearson. I really appreciate you doing this second session on sex and intimacy after cancer. Such an important topic that most of our oncologists are not willing or able to discuss. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
So further examining ways to talk about sexual needs and to communicate desires is to know your own personal turn-ons. So using Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, she would describe these as accelerators. So these are things that are your unique likes, because everybody has unique likes and dislikes that influence how they feel about wanting to engage in a sexual encounter. So just as we have specific things that we like around going to a restaurant, we have a favorite kind of food or a favorite place to vacation or a favorite outfit, something that just kind of lights us up. These can include physical or personality characteristics in a partner, a certain setting ambiance or specific sexual acts, a variety of sights, scents, sounds, and sensations. And you can learn a lot about the factors that shape your desire by looking at these turn on and turn off. Then you can make changes to enhance the experience. So I'm a believer that everyone is responsible for their own sexuality, just as everyone is responsible to be able to order their own meal at a restaurant. You can't expect somebody to be a mind reader or to know what you like. If you've been with somebody long enough, they may have a good sense of what they'd order for you at a restaurant. They may have a good sense of your personal turn-ons, but I believe it's everyone's responsibility to know what gets you going, what do you like, and what would you need in the environment to really increase that arousal for you. So this can facilitate sexual anticipation and desire, the use of fantasy, favorite erotic scenarios, or sex associated with special celebrations or anniversaries, or sex for the goal of conception, sex when feeling caring and close. These can all be personal turn-ons. And also ones that can elicit desire. So for some people, there's certain movies or music or candles or romantic locations or a weekend away from the kids or anything. There's a lot of women that I work with, and a clean house is a huge turn on. The smell of clean laundry, fresh linen is a candle scent that they have found connected to women's sexual desire. So the laundry's done. Whew, okay, now I can have some pleasure. So finding for yourself if there's music that gets you going, if there's a particular, other thing that could be in the room. For some people, that's the lighting or having the fan on, or going away just so that there's, privacy where you're away from the kids or you're away from, the mess of the house or the tasks of the day. It could be anything that would kind of get you going and be your personal turn on. So for example, Susan's partner Stan liked to put a red light bulb in the lamp during lovemaking to make the room seem forbidden. So that was a turn on for Stan. But Susan found herself distracted and eventually realized that the red light was too bright. She asked Stan to change the light bulb to a more light pink, which she found very sexy. So one person's turn on can be another person's turn off. And so if there's anything that you're finding that's distracting in the environment that you're in, or something that you're not liking, it's too cold, it's too hot. Some people like it really dark and they prefer, sex in the evening. Some people, morning with the sunrise. All of those are totally normal, and figuring out what your turn-ons are. And it's okay if they're different from your partner, and then being able to negotiate that. Like for Susan and Stan, finding a lighter shade of pink so he could still feel like, ooh, we're doing something forbidden, but she wasn't distracted. So things that increase Susan's turn-ons before sex could be slow dancing in a nightclub or the scent of wine and cologne and a clean shaven man. These are all things that really do it for her before sex. Things that turn her off would be having a date order her meal for her, or a musty or unclean apartment, or TV shows or movies with violent sex. So again, Susan's turn-ons could be someone else's turn-offs, and the reverse could be true. There might be someone who really gets turned on by having someone order for her, or watching a show that might have violence, might be something that is exciting. So none of these are right or wrong. It's just discovering what's your personal preference. So you might take a minute to think about what are things before sex that kind of get you going. And research also shows that this can also be connected to our developmental stage in life. So for young moms, a lot of things might be around acts of service, like putting the kids to bed or having dinner ready, might be a turn on because, one less thing I have to worry about. Or for someone in a different stage of life, it might be more spending more time together, or it might be getting time to yourself. So it could be anything. For some women, it's, gardening, it's wandering through Target, it's working out, it's playing words with friends, anything that you find makes your body go, ooh, and then discovering what the turn offs are before sex. So things that increase and decrease sexual arousal, turn on and turns offs during sex. So again, using Susan as an example of turn ons during sex, she enjoys gentle kisses on her neck or a soft massage or sex where she's on top of her partner. Her turn offs during sex would be musty pillows or bed linens, loud rock music, or feeling too hot or sweaty. And so for some women, feeling hot and sweaty might be a turn on, but in Susan's case, it's a turn off. So again, no right or wrong, just figuring out what are your preferences. So you might take some time to think about during sex, what are things that are turning you on? And during sex, is there anything that's turning you off? Anything that causes pain? Anything that's distracting? Anything that's annoying? And what's interesting when I do this work with couples is sometimes one person's turn on is another person's turn off and they don't know it, or they know it, but they've never been able to say it. Like, hey, that thing you do that you think is so great, I really don't like that. So it gives couples an opportunity to kind of share their list with each other. So it's important to acknowledge that these turn on and turned off so that you can make changes to increase your interest in being sexual. And the main challenge can be asserting your likes and dislikes with a partner. So oftentimes we may be aware of what our preferences are, but then the next step is how do we communicate that with our partner or partners? So then I also work with couples to help them develop their sexual style, to establish their unique style by exploring and sharing their sexual desires, feelings, and preferences. This is divided into 2 phases. First, you do it individually, then you share your thoughts and reach understandings and agreements about your unique couple style. Define what's uniquely and mutually pleasurable and satisfying for both of you. So I ask people to do this individually first because people tend to edit if they're trying to do it together. They're like afraid to be the first one to say, hey, I really like this, because they're, kind of worried about what's my partner going to think? Are they going to be okay with this? So think about and write out the answers to the following questions. Don't worry about being politically correct or trying to second guess what your partner's going to like. And you can be free and explicit. So how much intimacy do you want in your life and relationship? Are you a high touch person and you need some kind of physical contact every day? Is intellectual intimacy more important? What are the most important emotions you want to share in your relationship? Some people want to feel really emotionally connected. Other people, that may not be as much of a priority. What is your preferred way to deal with differences and conflicts? Some couples want to be able to talk about it. I have some couples that they prefer to write to each other about it, and that feels more comfortable than to verbally share that. And how important is sex in your life? How important Is it in your relationship? How important is your relationship? So for some people, sex really isn't that big of a deal. I work with some people and they're like, if I never had sex again, I would be fine. And other people that are like, if I never had sex again, I might die. And those people are often married to each other. So then figuring out how do we navigate that so that both people feel safe and respected in the relationship. In terms of affectionate touch, do you prefer kissing, holding hands, hugging? None of the above? All of the above? How much do you enjoy cuddling? How important is that to you? Some people like to cuddle all night long, wrapped up in each other's arms. And other people are like, I can do that for about 30 seconds and then I get hot and I just want you away from me. Both of those are totally normal. What if those two people are in a relationship together? And how do you distinguish affectionate touch from seductive or sensual touch? That can be confusing for some people. You know, is a wink like a, hey, I'm thinking about you, or is a wink like head to the bedroom? So being able to know, like, what are those signals supposed to mean? How do we tell each other what it is we're intending? And how much do you enjoy sensual touch? Do you prefer taking turns or mutually giving and receiving? So some people might enjoy that they're touching their partner at the same time their partner's touching them. Other people prefer, like, I just want to be pleasured and I don't want to have to do anything, or I just want to pleasure my partner and I don't want them touching me back because that's distracting. What is the meaning and value of playful touch? And are you comfortable with your genitals and your partner's genitals? For some people, they've never touched their own genitals. They've never touched their partner's genitals, and they have no intention of ever doing that. Okay. And other people that really want their genitals to be touched by their partner. How much do you enjoy erotic scenarios like fantasy, role play? So there are some couples that enjoy reading erotic, literature and, the pizza guy shows up at the door kind of thing, and then acting that out for excitement. I have some couples that will meet each other at the bar and act like they don't know each other and get to know each other again, even though like they've been married 30 years. And he might buy her a drink and they might dance and act like it's a first date. That's a role play. And do you prefer single stimulation or multiple stimulation? So do you prefer to just be touched in one place? Do you prefer to be touched all over? Or does that feel like too much going on and it's distracting? Or maybe even so stimulating that it causes pain? Do you prefer taking turns? Do you enjoy erotic sex, like oral sex, manual massage? Is that the goal to get to orgasm or only as a pleasurable experience? What is your preferred intercourse position? Man on top, female on top, rear entry, side to side? All options. And has that changed? So some of these may have been a different answer 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Some of these may have different answers before cancer diagnosis or treatment, or before children, or before, mom-in-law moved in or something. There's all different developmental stages that can affect our preference for things. So I think it's good for couples to develop their sexual style and then to update as needed. What type of thrusting do you prefer? If you enjoy penetration, in and out, circular, deep inside, shallow. There's some women that cannot have deep penetration because it's very painful. There's some men that are not able to do deep penetration because it's painful, or they have, their own medical concerns. And so being able to talk about what feels good, what doesn't. And do you want to engage in multiple stimulation during intercourse? Does that feel fun? Does that feel overwhelming? How much do you value afterplay? I work with a lot of couples that have never heard the term afterplay. They've heard foreplay, but afterplay, what does that look like? So for some couples, they might be intimate and then they sit and talk and cuddle, or they're intimate and then they each read their own, books because, hey, that was fun, but now I want to go read my book, or they watch a show together, or they eat a sandwich. Okay. For some people, afterplay can be very short. For some people, afterplay can be the whole rest of the weekend. So figuring out what that looks like. And prior to and during sexual activities, are you aware of your emotions? What are you feeling? Are you feeling connected? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling worried? And then if so, explain. So for some couples I work with, maybe they're worried about pain, or they're worried about lubrication, or they're worried about fatigue. And then how do you feel after you're sexual? Did that feel pleasurable? Did that feel satisfying? Did that feel connected? Did that feel shameful? Did that feel weird? Um, for some individuals I work with, that felt numb because they're not really present. They may be going through the motions, but they weren't really there. Okay, that may be worth exploring. Are you free to say no comfortably to sexual contact? And if so, think of some examples. Are you free to say yes? And then think of some examples. Because ideally, with healthy boundaries, both partners should be able to say no if they're not wanting something, and yes if they are. Are you honest with yourself and your partner regarding safe sex practices, your preferences around various activities, and your desire to be sexual or not? So then read your partner's responses, discuss each question. Remember, you're not clones of each other. So there may have been something that was revealing, but no need to be embarrassed or apologetic. How you feel is how you feel. Your preferences and sensitivities are part of who you are as a sexual person and must be integrated into your couple style for you truly to be satisfied. So I work with a lot of couples where maybe there are things that they've always wanted to do or always wanted to try, but they've been afraid to share that with a partner for fear of, what are you going to think of me if I want to try this? It's worth having a conversation about. So then divide your answers into 3 categories: areas you agree on. These will enhance your enjoyment and satisfaction. You might both agree to affectionate and playful touch more than sensual touch. You might agree to erotic sex to orgasm is highly satisfying, or a favorite intercourse position, or maybe you both value bonding during afterplay. Areas you can reach agreement on. Maybe you have differences, but you can accept and even enjoy each other. So maybe one person enjoys sharing daily feelings and the other person's more emotionally reserved. And so sharing feelings may be a lot of work for that person, but they're willing to try. The spouse who puts more value on sex agrees to be the prime initiator, or maybe one prefers kissing and the other holding hands. One would like to do sexual touching standing up. The other likes lying in bed. One likes verbalizing sexual fantasies while the other likes to close her eyes and fantasize. Or one likes to switch positions, the other prefers to be on top. These are all things that can be negotiated the same way we negotiate, like, who's going to pick the movie, who's going to pick the restaurant, who's going to pick where we go on vacation, what kind of sex are we going to have tonight. Those are things that can be negotiated too. They're not matters of right or wrong. You can enjoy your partner's sexual style because an involved, aroused partner is the best aphrodisiac. And there may be some differences to accept or adapt to. So if there's some major differences, maybe one puts a high priority on sex while the other's indifferent. One wants a daily sensual massage. The other hates giving massage. One wants to use a vibrator during intercourse, and maybe the other is turned off by that or finds that to be not working for their value system or their religious or spiritual beliefs. Maybe one wants to try a variety of positions, but the other strongly prefers one particular position. Or there may be a medical condition where there are limited numbers of possibilities of positions that are comfortable. Maybe he likes being sexual early in the morning while she likes it late at night, or he wants to experiment with swinging relationships or ethical non-monogamy, also now being called consensual non-monogamy, and maybe she values monogamy. Those would be things to process in therapy. It's not easy or even possible to integrate many of these differences. It's important to acknowledge your differences, but not let them turn into a power struggle, because differences do not equal rejection. Or there may be, you can agree to couples therapy to understand the meaning of the differences and maybe find some common ground. So a couple extra resources: Partnering, a great book on being able to appreciate differences in relationships. And that if there's particular things about your partner that are really driving you crazy, it might actually be a reflection of parts of yourself. And then Resurrecting Sex by David Schnarch. He has information in there on different communication and touching exercises to enhance intimacy.